Sandman and Soundman are two different people, and I can prove it. This theory has been around for at least a decade, but the people of 2026 need to hear about it. The amount of comments of smug people going, "It's Soundman, not Sandman," is overwhelming, and I fundamentally disagree with it, and you should understand why. There is no initial person that started this theory as far as I can verify. People over the years have seemed to come up with this on their own because it just intuitively makes so much sense. Okay, where's the proof? There are 6 things I can point to. Number 1. The tribespeople refer to Sandman as Sandman. Oh, but that's a retcon. But what if it's not? We assume Araki just retconned. That's the general assumption people push in order to fill in the discrepancy. But what if it was intentional from the start in order to truly set up the twist later that they're two different people and we're supposed to put the puzzle together? If we take the text as it is, it doesn't infer a mistake. It infers that they're different. Number 2. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. How do we know Valentine swapped him out? Well, that's because when Diego in chapter 40 goes to ask for a subordinate, where is the subordinate introduced from? Between a door and the ground. Between a door and the ground. Between. He comes out of from between something. Isn't that Valentine's whole shtick? Pulling out people in order to serve his own ends? What if Sandman and Soundman are the initial setup and hint for D4C's power? Not in the sense that we're supposed to clock when it first pops up, but for a reread. Just like the name being different. What if it's on purpose? Number 3. More about the personality change. The original Sandman is not the type to have allied himself with the president, at least in my opinion. He wants to take the white man's money. He's playing the white man's game to exploit it, not to work and advance its causes. Do you really think that Sandman, who has a genuinely amazing chance to win the race, would really trust the president to not sneakily betray him? By winning the money, you get a landy that you can certify with future presidents. Trusting the current one gets you nothing, and Valentine is clearly a scheming, unworthy, lying piece of... Okay, calming down. But what would really help me calm down is if you consider dropping a subscription and the like. Now we return. Let's analyze their personalities a bit more closely. What do we know about Sandman? Sandman is the youngest named racer of the Steel Ball Run race, being only 18 years old. Yet despite his youth, upon his shoulders he carries the future of his tribe. If he fails to succeed the race, his people will lose their land and their identity. Despite him being critical of their traditions and how badly they want to hold on to them, he's fiercely loyal to his tribe and will stop at nothing to save them from the nation that wants nothing but to eliminate them, whether through death or forced integration. He's a very misunderstood boy by his people, his sister characterizing him as solitary and stubborn. Sandman is critical of his people to a point that he's painted himself as an outsider. So when the white man's books are discovered in his possession, that's why they jump to assuming he's a threat against them. The boy was called a troublemaker. This is a pattern for him. He's literate and has been reading the white man's books for a while. That's why he knows about the race. Not only that, his technique in running is so refined, it's clear that he's been practicing it for a long time. He's infatuated with the white man's culture despite pitting himself against them. He doesn't make his allegiance or his reasoning clear to his tribe, probably because he was chastised a lot as a kid, so he finds it better to hide his obsession, which leads to his people misunderstanding him. His character is painted as so solitary that it's reflected in how he approaches the race. Alone. At least characters like Diego and Hot Pants had their horse. Sandman had nothing but his willpower. Not once did he ever complain about wanting to be accepted again by his tribe. It's possible that if he did win, he'd still be rejected by them. And he's okay with that. He's always been okay with that. He's felt like an outsider all of his life, and he's probably already accepted that that might be the conclusion if he won. It's also alluded to that his parents are likely dead, as it's explained in the manga that the emerald he used to enter the race was an heirloom from his parents. However, as determined as this young man may be, he's not just a stoic hero. He's youthful. It's amusing to see a man who just outran a horse chase get bested by his sister in the end. He's human. He's barely entered adulthood and is being treated still as a kid. Not only that, his smile when showing off the newspaper to his sister gives him a level of whimsy. He's excited to enter. He thinks he can win. He believes in himself. When the person admitting him to the race is racist against him, he reacts. Again, he's not just some noble stoic. He uses his stand as a little means to get back at him. The "eat sand, pig" is an amusing little line. And albeit a very small interaction, he's polite. When trying to find where to apply for the race, he kindly asks Gyro where to go. Then later when Poco Loco is in need of direction, he goes out of his way to help a fellow participant with advice, even though he is a rival he could have left behind. If he's as brutal as Soundman is, which I'll get to shortly, it makes little sense for him to have kept in another rival. While there's a case to be made that he stepped in because Pocoloco wasn't a white man and Pocoloco's lineage was also exploited by the white man, Dahan and Narusuke are both not white and Soundman attempted to kill them. So to summarize, Sandman is a noble yet youthful young man who uses his passion for learning about the white man in order to use it against them. He's playing their game to beat it, not to advance it. Soundman, however, is different. There's no reason to suspect that Soundman's backstory is at all divergent. Just like Diego, he has a similar personality on the surface, but where they deviate are their different moralities and insane brutalities. Sandman is not the type to have worked for Funny Valentine, but someone who is willing to underhandedly sneak attack someone is. That's what Soundman is. He'll do anything to win, accepting any viable deal given to him, even if it's by the white man, and even if it involves killing people who are not associated with the history of the nation's brutality against his own people. He uses people. He kills people. He's different. His solitary lifestyle has led him to a different means of approaching the race. Win at all costs. There is no failure. A way to see his character empathetically might be that he thinks this is the only way for his people to survive. He's never had close relationships with people, so why would he spare them if they're the initial cause for his plight to begin with? If it weren't for the white man exploiting his people, he could pursue his hobbies and interests with a passion. Instead, he has to hide it and isolate. This is reflected so well in his stand. His stand presents its ability with written language. Written sound effects are manifested onto the dinosaurs that Diego lended Soundman. Mesoamerica may have had written language, but northern Native Americans generally relied on oral tradition. And that's why it's so neat. Soundman transforms what is essentially audible communication into written language. It shows how he is part of both worlds. But he can never wholly be both. His tribe will forever see him as odd, and he doesn't want to join the United States' people. Just participate in some of the fascinating things they do. So when I say Sandman and Soundman are two different people, that is not me saying that Soundman is in any way lesser. He's also deeply interesting, just not the same. It's a fascinating exploration of loneliness, and both characters have a motivation that makes sense. Some people find it upsetting that Soundman allied himself with the president, and I feel like a large part of that is due to it not feeling right with Sandman's established history. So separating the two sort of solves that. Now that I've finished sneakily inserting character analysis in here, let us move on to 4. At multiple different points in the series, Sandman allows himself to be addressed as Sandman and never corrects anybody. He knows English well. He can see the way his name is spelled. However, for some reason in his fight with Johnny, only then it becomes something he's puzzled by. In chapter 36, Gyro calls Sandman Sandman and Sandman replies with no issue. It doesn't make sense, unless this Soundman is used to being called Soundman, though he still gets occasionally mistaken as Sandman in his own dimension. Number 5. Diego sniffs out the president in this interaction. He doesn't sniff out Sandman. Either he wasn't there originally, or the two have different scents, so he didn't clock someone else was there. He was outwardly looking for people in this interaction, but didn't clock someone who was right next to him. Valentine didn't even make himself present, yet he was able to still smell him from further away. This reeks of D4C shenanigans. Number 6. The Sand Stand. The sand is so obviously Sandman's stand. It's in his name, we see it getting used twice. It's just a different stand than in a silent way. We know that the same person across parallel worlds can have different stands because that's what alternate Diego is. I know people say that in a silent way is used here in order to move the sand, but it's just so much more straightforward if we just recognize it as Sandman's stand. So, what are the counterpoints? Counter 1.
D4C's ability wasn't always like that. It was only overlapping dimensions at first.
While the way D4C is presented does shift, a core component of the stand has always been that when you go in between something, you enter a different dimension. That isn't something that was added in the Love Train arc or something, it was always there. From Lucy's abuse to the initial Wekapipo and Diego fight. Counter 2. This is just an excuse for poor writing, cause you don't like how your favorite character turned out or something. Some people say they don't like Soundman because of the sudden change in allegiance and were deeply disappointed by it. But I'm not one of those people. Why would I draw Soundman with this level of effort if I thought he was a lamer version of Sandman? No, I think if you want to read them as the same character, that's fine. I just think this interpretation elevates the story even more. Counter 3.
You just want an excuse to say Sandman is alive, when, even if this is true, Valentine probably killed him.
Well, yes, the original Sandman can be dead in this interpretation. We see Valentine just nonchalantly dojans people when they're inconvenient. It's also very easy to get dojan if you don't know what you're looking out for, so it's entirely possible that Sandman is off running in a parallel world without realizing what happened. Whether that be swapping him into the race Soundman is from, or into a world where the original Sandman died earlier in the race, let me dream. I'd like to believe that. Counter 4. Why would Valentine pick Sandman? Valentine might have clocked Sandman as a stand user for the wrong reason. The way Sandman runs is borderline supernatural, so Valentine might have approached Sandman thinking he was a stand user in that regard, and when he was denied, just sought to grab a new one. Having a competent racer that serves as a sinister agent to carry out his whims is very, very useful. So yes, I think Sandman and Soundman are two different characters. In the text, it just makes the most sense to me and makes me enjoy the story even more. Sandman is a character so often overlooked. He was the character we opened the story with, and so him being the opening for the president's ability is very cool, in my opinion. Do you have to believe it too? No, I won't force you to. Just stop commenting.
It's Soundman.
Not only may I actually be talking about Sandman, given which panel, you're also intentionally entering spaces trying to spoil people who haven't seen the manga. It's disingenuous to say otherwise. I draw JoJo illustrations, skits, comics, I cover news, and if you want to see more from me, subscribe! Also check me out like Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And join the JoJo Lands Discord, please! It's in the description.